Hello, welcome to another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. I'm Lady TrenettWilson, your lecturer and social historian. Today's lecture may make you just a little bit hungry because we're going to talk about soul food. Now, in my opinion, soul food is the best food on earth. Of course, some would say the most unhealthiest, but okay, we can argue about that. There's ways to make it taste and be even more healthier. But soul food has a tradition really in slavery. It began because Black people would make the meals from the master's leftovers. So that's why we had a lot of pork in our diet. So soul food would consist of things like chitterlings and pig feet, hog mog and ham. And so these are some of the things that you would see on Sundays after after church on a Sunday meal. But you'd also see things like fried chicken, greens, sweet potatoes, and hot water cornbread. Now, today, it may not seem strange that people have soul food restaurants that are doing well. But back in the 1800s, can you imagine? There was a woman, her name was Lilian Harris Dean, that forged her way to the front of the soul food line and became a millionaire. They called her Pigfoot Mary, but she cooked a whole lot more than just pig feet. So, thank you all for joining me. I hope that you enjoy this message. And y'all, would you leave some comments down below about what's your favorite soul food dish? What can you cook well? Do you still do Sunday meals after church? I definitely try to do one at least once a month for my family. So tell me down below. So over the years, our recipes have been passed down from each other. So my grandmother passed it down to their grandmother, and that's the same thing that happened with Lillian Harris Dean. Dean was a larger than life figure during the Harlem Renaissance in New York, serving at the best soul food in town. She was born in the Mississippi Delta in 1870, and Dean migrated to New York during the Great Migration. And we've talked about the Great Migration, how blacks began to move from the South to the North during the early 1900s, late 1800s, in order to reposition themselves because they were experiencing a lot of discrimination and unfair treatment in the South. Plus, there was more money to be made in the North. So, North they went. So, as people relocated, they longed for soul food. I'm not talking about people up north, y'all, but we're known in the South to cook more, a little bit better. Now you put down below if you're from the North or from the South, and you tell me who you think are the best cooks. But during the 1800s, late 1800s, early 1900s, the best cooks were coming from the South. So Dean relocated to the South. She began her culinary, adventure, or I would say journey in 1901 from a makeshift cart. She was she really kind of made it. She repurposed it, and it was a baby carrier, and she bought it for $3. $3 started her multi-million dollar business. So it may be someone listening to me today who believes that they are a business owner. They may not have enough money, or in their mind may not have enough money to move forward, but let Miss Dean be an inspiration to you. $3, and she became a multi-millionaire. So she parked on the corner of 135th Street and Malcolm X, was today is called Malcolm X Boulevard there in New York. And she began to sell plates. Now, her plates, they went like lickety split. They were a hit. People were coming from everywhere. They said it would be 25 and 30 people lined up just to eat some of her pig feet. That's what she was known for. And it was funny, the all races of people were coming out of the buildings and coming down to eat her pig feet. So that is what is so wonderful. She also sold hog mogs and chitterlings and corn. Now, in a biography written by Roy Otley, he says that she worked from the early morning until night selling her plates, where she actually sold those plates for 16 years. So she started in 1907 and she did it for 16 years. He said she was known to have two cotton dresses, but she was also known for banking that money. She was simply a genius in business. So, nowadays, you see business owners, they consume their profit as soon as they get it. Here this woman is, started a business on $3, wore two cotton dresses. Come on now. And was able to build this business. So we can learn so much from Miss Dean. I hope that you are enjoying today's lecture. You all don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe. You know, we here at Royal Black and Elite, we're teaching the other side of Black history, the royal side. And people want to make you think that soul food is bad and da 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 da. But back then, people had to make a living. And this is how this woman from the Mississippi Delta made her living. What are you doing today? Do you serve food? I used to have a catering business. I did really well with it. But Royal Black and Elite kind of stole all of my time. So that's where I am right now. But listen, I love a good sweet potato pie. And she sold it all. So she saved enough money one day to open her own restaurant on 135th Street and Lenox Avenue. Now, before that time, right after she moved, where she bought a carriage and she extended and bought a hot plate where she could keep the food hot. And there was a newsstand there. And she partnered with the newsstand owner and say, listen, can I attach my hot plate to your newsstand? And he said yes. And they both said yes because they were married in 1908. And his name was John Dean. So that's why her last name is Dean. Now, a man named James Walden Johnson, he wrote an article it was called Making of Harlem. And he said in 1925 that Miss Dean purchased a 5-story apartment building for $42,000. Then, in a couple of years, she sold it for a profit. Some say to the YWCA, some say to a funeral home. No matter what, wherever she sold it for a big profit. So that's how she really kind of began to grow her real estate empire. So her food made her enough money to build a real estate empire. Now, Dean was a beloved figure in Harlem. She was towering, a very tall woman, a big woman, and she was respected for her delicious food and her business acumen. And she was one of the only half a dozen Black people who owned land in Manhattan. She invested her money in real estate, as I was saying, and she amassed a bank account boasting $375,000. Today, that would be worth $6 to $7 million. Now, have you ever heard of Miss Dean? You know, she's hidden a lot in the stories in the Harlem Renaissance. I think on Hoodlum, they had a woman who kind of mirrored her, but they didn't really go into her life a lot. Now, Miss Dean and her husband never had any children. And after standing on her feet and cooking for over 20 years, she retired in the early 1920s and moved to California and sat on the beach and had her a wonderful life. So that is the story of the mother of soul food. Now, some of you may Google that and see a lady named Edna Lewis, but Miss Lilian Harris Dean actually predated Miss Lewis, and she owned her own business, whereas Miss Lewis did not. And Miss Dean was a multimillionaire and Miss Lewis was not. So that's why I called her instead the mother of soul food. So I want to thank you all for joining me. As you know, my lectures are for entertainment and educational purposes only, and the Fair Act use is in effect. My resources were Jessica B. Harris, High on the Hog. I also read an article by Roy Otley called The Springtime in Harlem, as well as an article in the New York Times. So thank you all for joining me. If you want to continue learning, remember to click down below so you can also view another lesson. As well as you all, my membership is growing. Thank you all so very, very much. Y'all, we're going to be starting to do our behind the scenes. Also, you get the video before everyone else gets the video. And so go out and really discounts on our meet and greets. Y'all, come on, get to know me in the behind the scenes as I prepare my Royal Black and Elite lessons and my research. So I want to know you more, and I hope you want to know me a little bit better and learn about the behind the scenes of Royal Black and Elite. Also, the Royal Black and Elite Volume 2 is going to be coming out very soon. So don't forget to go out and pick up your book today for the Royal Royal Black and Elite book. I've left a link down below for Amazon. So thank you for joining me for another great episode of Royal Black and Elite. Have a great